Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I know we have only one man here, but he's representing all the others. All right. My name is Dr. Olushola Ajide, and it's a pleasure today to share with you my Viva experience. Now, like I did mention to Alison, I know you guys are very, very busy, and because you are very, very busy, you might not actually have time to look at my YouTube channel. In which one of the videos I put there was learning to say no. You know.
Don't teach them how to do that, they'll not come back.
All right, so that's my YouTube channel, and on there you have close to 36 videos. Others are still coming, handling various aspects of the PhD program and various things I think are important for you to have a successful PhD. Well, others might differ. You know, that's from my own point of view, and that's what you learn from the PhD process, that you might not always be right. Some might have a totally different experience and different arguments. From my perspective as a PhD student, I think all the topics which I've handled on my YouTube channel are critical for making you a rounded researcher at the end of the day. Like career, part of it there is career planning. Have you thought of your career after the PhD program? Most people don't think of career. Learning to say no, distractions, dealing with Facebook. I have quite a lot of that. and the issue of dealing with mental block, dealing with not being able to write, dealing with distractions. You know, quite a lot of things I handled there. But this particular talk is going to be on sharing my Viva experience, which was one of the things I dreaded before that particular day. My Viva, how would it going to be? Now, the most important thing about the PhD process is that ideally, it's supposed to be a lonely journey, which actually it is a lonely journey, but there are quite a lot of support that you can draw from to help you not to be a lonely journey. And I think that is one of the essence of this talk or this presentation, that you need to know about those who have gone through the process. How has it been? Now, I must say a disclaimer is that whatever I say and whatever anybody tells you about their PhD or Viva experience is a peculiar situation. So if you have 50 people, 50 different Viva experiences. So whatever I say can only just be a tip of the iceberg from my own point of view that will be of help to us. Now, in the PhD process, when you come to the PhD process, it's a definite, and that's why it's called a project. There's a definite start and a definite end of a PhD program. And when you have passed through the point of submitting your draft, this was mine, submitting your draft, at the point of submitting your draft, then you kickstart a process of preparing for the Viva. At that point, you are almost getting out of the process, the PhD process. Now, getting to this point is often an uphill task. And for me, I might be wrong, but I've come to see, and I keep saying it, that the PhD program or process is a template if you only understand the template. You need to understand the template. And part of the things that the YouTube channel is addressing is helping you to understand the template. So that's, I would say. Now, at the point in which you submit your draft, I know the first thing is to be as if a big rock is rolled off your shoulder, because you'll be thinking, wow, you're done. Now, what do you do? And this is what this experience, this by sharing after you submit. Once you submit your draft for submission, for assessment, it's not time to rest. Although the first week you can take a leave and go and just sleep your head. Just forget about everything and sleep, do whatever you want to do. But at that point, it's coming back to actually looking at what you have written. And interestingly enough, whatever you have written, when you come back to it, when you see your mistakes you made, you will be shouting. Say, wow, I made that mistake. Well, but it's there. So it's not a problem, even if you have submitted and there are mistakes, because there will definitely be mistakes in it. So when you have submitted and you are going through it, the next thing is for you to know everything in total, because part of the things that the Viva process is supposed to know is to assess actually if you did the job. Were you the one that did the job, or somebody did the job for you? So the Viva process is to assess that. Number two, the Viva process is to assess and to know actually if you have developed as a researcher in which you want to come to become an established academic. The Viva process is supposed to test that. Number three, the Viva process is prepared to test how do you process ideas? How do you process issues? And there's a CD produced by this graduate school, can get that from Martin Simpson. It really helped me significantly. The CD might look old, quite way back, but it documents the same thing of people that had Viva experiences, how their Viva went, and also examiners of Vivas. It's Dr. Charles Dewar and Professor Dorothy Williams, who's retired from RGU. And one of the key things I learned from that, looking at that, is your external examiner wants to know what's your thought process like. And for me, my weakness is often, or my strength, which is also, your strength can also be a weakness, is talking. I talk fully, easily. So, but when you get to the PhD process or the PhD Viva, at that point in time, you need to change. So even if you know what they're asking you, don't say anything. Even though you know the answer, don't say anything. Because it's more like you own the whole time. That period, you own it. So even if it takes you 5 minutes to respond back to the question, they all wait for you. It's your time. Now, having said that, if they ask you a question, I know I've jumped, I'll go back to the issue of the layout of the room after this. After they ask you a question, even if you know it, now you can see I've color-coded some things, areas in which I think are very important for me to know, okay, what page, if you talk about this, okay, I open to that page and look at it, what is there, if they ask you, good, so you'll be able to know quickly. So when they ask you questions, just pause and think. Or do as if you are thinking. So just pause and think and process. If you know you've not understood what is being asked, then do you mean, do I think I get what you are saying? Then the person says, oh, if that's what they are saying, yes. Then you ask, you answer and say, okay, this is, and when you finish, another thing is, don't just be talking and talking and talking. At a point, stop and ask, I hope I've answered your question. Because it's more of a colleagues, it's a discussion. It's a discussion. Now, that's a key thing. Now, you could see that I might be jumping up and down because I didn't plan this. I'd like it just to be as free as possible, in which we are going to take questions just as the ideas come to my head and I can remember, I'll just share. So that's the point of when you submit and you get to the Viva process and your mental process is being assessed. How do you process ideas? And when you process ideas, do you take on, which is the critical thing the PhD process is teaching you, is the fact that you must know that you are not always right. You could be wrong. So you must be able to take on the point of view of the opposing person you're talking to. And your external examiner might come to you from any direction, whatever the person, just make sure you don't argue. Make sure you're not obstinate. Make sure you're not saucy. Because some people are they could be, and if you are very saucy and obstinate and argumentative, then the person might actually be ready to dig it with you. And if the person says at that point in time, go back and resubmit, you have to go back and resubmit. Because they are the one assessing you. You are only just, So please, whatever you do, once you get into the door, forget about whoever you are. Be as simple as possible. Be firm as if you know that, this is what you believe in. Sorry, from my point of view, this is what I think it is. And accept, and concede. Concede if you know that you are not right in every. But please don't be saucy. Don't be stubborn. Don't be argumentative. Be very polite and respectful. I think it works. It works well. Now, having said that, how is the layout? When you come into if you go to my YouTube channel, there's a particular video I've also done about 5 things to do preparing for your Viva, and one of it is that you must know the venue of the Viva before the date of the Viva. You must know the venue. You must know how the venue looks like. You must know what's the room number. You must know the timing, and you must be, know that all those information. Now, as you are knowing that, also before then, you must be well prepared. Well prepared, what do I mean? Be relaxed before, which is take a sleep. Make sure you sleep, even if you at least rest before that particular day, because it's a day in which you are going to be having a series of mental trauma. Mental trauma, in which when you wake up that morning, you are just asking as if your heart will be pumping, your heart is pumping, your head is, you are just thinking, how would it be, how would it be, how would it be, how would it be? And at that point, you don't want any drama around you. So you want to make sure that at least you've rested, you've slept, you woke up in the morning, you are well dressed, you have your bottle of water if you want water or something around you, and you have this with you, and a piece of paper or piece of pen in which you want to take note if they ask you questions. And you might, because you will definitely not remember all the questions you'll be asked. So if you're not going to remember all the questions, it's good to always have a pen, and a paper. And once you come into the examination hall, the convener, the examiner, if you are a student, you have 2 examiners, one internal and one external. But if you are a staff, for example, in RGU, you have 3 examiners because of quality control, to be double sure that this university doesn't just be quitting and giving you a PhD like that. And when you come into the room, the layout is there. And from my own perspective, my supervisor, I have already prepared my slide to make a presentation. I didn't tell him I'm going to make a presentation. I've already prepared my slide to make a presentation. So he has already told the convener that there will be no presentation, there will be no slide for presentation. But surprise, surprise, I said I want to make a presentation. Now, from my point of view, I think it is good for you to make a presentation. You know why? The person who is coming to examine you has read all your work and is going to ask you a series of questions. But you making a presentation will refresh and might actually touch on some areas they have actually overlooked. which will, your slide, here's the exact slide I used. I talk about background, how and why did the projects and how did they come about, which is what they want to always know. I have a section, interestingly, I found it in one of the theses from Edinburgh, in which I talk about my personal statements. How did I come? Which is first the questions they ask you. How did you come about this project? Why were you interested in this topic? So I had a section in which I did my personal statement. I'm on page 3. I'm a male, a Nigerian citizen. How I blah blah blah, all those things. So the first they want to know, how did the project come about? So why did you do the project? My research aim, objectives, and questions. What did the research set out to do? The methodology. How was it? The research designed. Research study contributions. What did the research add to the body of knowledge and conclusion? So that was my slide, and I continued the areas, research aim, objective, questions, then my initial framework, because I was looking at the issue of Niger Delta, and I was looking at the issue of community engagement, corporate social responsibility, but I use, this is Brunick 2002, looking at assessing relationship. So relationship was my own theoretical framework. Rahila, can you get that now? So for me, I was assessing relationship between the communities and the company. So for me, relationship was my theoretical framework. So everything I used was relationship. So I was looking at relationship. So I now begin to look at authors that have used relationship in their various research. So relationship now became my theoretical framework in which I was assessing. So all the various, how has relationship be used in various researches, and in what field and what areas have they been used, and how does that will help me in using my own in my own work. So that was how I look at that, my initial framework and my final framework. And you could see that all this will refresh the mind of your external examiner before the particular, then my methodology, then the research contributions, because you need to state the contributions. So research contributions and the conclusion. The framework developed by this research study is capable of ensuring a long-term relationship between the stakeholders, that is oil companies and the communities, because till this body of work tried to make sure what can put an end to companies and community squabbles. And that's what the work was all about. So in my point of view, I think it's good that you do a presentation. It presents, it does something, it's like an icebreaker. Because as you enter the room, you can feel the tension. You can feel as if everything is just, you are meeting. I remember very that morning as I entered my supervisor, they said, we were waiting outside. Then when they were set, the internal examiner came and said, okay, you guys can come in. I was just saying, wow. It's as if you are going to the slaughter today. And as you enter the place, you just feel the tension, and your external whoever greets you, because you are a colleague. At that point, is a discussion they want to have with you. You are greeted and sit down. So you still feeling the tension. But when you do a presentation, at that point in time, it's an icebreaker. Now you are used to the room for a while, and everybody is, at least there's a conversation going on, and at that point in time you can, so after that, my presentation is okay. At the point in which they were going to tell me, and that's another thing, make sure my presentation was supposed to be how many slides? It was supposed to be 14 slides. Now 14 slides, that should not be 14 minutes. 14 slides should be actually under 8 minutes. So that you don't keep going and going and going and going. So 14 slides under 8 minutes or 5 minutes if possible. And after you do that, so they say, okay, sit down. And they say, convener said, okay, well, welcome your external examiner, your internal examiner. So the internal will ask you a question, the external will ask you a question, and the internal will come back and ask questions. So the internal examiner fired the first salvo to get you, then you sit properly. You say, okay, they ask you questions. The first internal examiner asked me a question about the issue of the project. And well, like I told you, don't rush, even if you know the answer. Open to a page if you know. Just pretend, if you like. Because if you don't want to, they want to see if you have developed as a researcher. They want to see if you have come to the point of becoming a colleague. Because at the end of that process, once they say doctor, congratulations doctor, you are now colleagues. That is what it is. So as that, you want to be double sure that you are. So when they asked the first question, after he asked the first question, well, I said I tried answering the question. After answering the question, after a while, well, he said it was true. Okay, I said yeah. Then we now went to the external examiner. And I said, I have 4 questions for you. He said, I have 4 questions for you. So I sat properly. I said, well, let's see how it goes. So 4 questions. He asked the first question. After he asked the first question, wow. And that's another point. Your external examiner, because when you have your external examiner chosen, it's often advised that you know the work of your external examiner and try and see a meeting point between that and your work. And try as much as possible, see what your research and that person's research, how does it meet and where does it vary? And try and cite the person. So I've cited him in 2 places in which I compared in my research discussion his own conclusion, my conclusion, and how does that fit? Oh, this is in consonance, or this is consonance or agrees with the finding of Rikerson et al. 2000 and blah 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 on blah blah, on that. So when he will be coming from his own strength, so you must know the strength of your external examiner. So for him, yeah. Then,
sorry, just a quick question.
Yeah.
How would you know your external examiner? Do they tell you at some point, or do you want to find out? Or
okay.
When do you know?
Okay. Now the external examiner, the choice of external examiner, actually, it's between yourself and your supervisor.
Okay.
Between yourself and supervisor, but and you need to be very careful who you're going to choose for your external examiner, because the person could make or mar you. So I told my supervisor, he said I should bring a list. In my field, I know some people. I said, okay, these are the names I think. He looked at them, said, okay, let him sleep on them, sleep on the list and see what it is. At the end of the day, he says, no, it doesn't feel. And I told him, well, I give all because if at the end of the day it doesn't go well, then the fault is just because you chose the external examiner. So, I defer to him, well, just choose anybody. Because the supervisor too doesn't want you to fail. So he wants to make sure that the person coming is not just coming to on-edge you and unseat you and just to rubbish you. So he chose the person, and at once the person accepts, that's it done. So you need to know so ideally in RGU, 3 months before you submit, I think, I'm not too sure now.
I would have said 6.
6 months before you
I would have
submit.
said 6 because it's got to be ratified by the graduate school board.
Yeah.
They ratify who your internal and external are.
Before you submit, so you need to have them 6 months. So once they ratify them, then that's you. So he will be looking at you and honoring you from his own strength. And interestingly enough, my external examiner is consultant with multinational companies, Fortune 500 companies. He just said, one of his questions, I see that, you talked about value. Interestingly, yeah. So what are you saying, that the oil companies don't add value to the communities? Well, I don't say they're not adding value. I tried to answer the question. It came again, the same question. It came again, the same question. At that point, I was jittery. To be candid, I was jittery. I felt, would he now ask me to go back? Because he was saying, perhaps if you had gotten in, I intended to survey all the oil companies in Nigeria. Now, the multinational companies, despite the letter of introduction from DPR, refused to give me, so I need to change the research design. And changing the research design, I only got Chevron and indigenous oil companies. So his own argument was that if I had gotten a response from the multinational companies, perhaps my conclusion would have been different. So I was not asking him, are you now saying that Chevron is not a multinational, even though I have one, and the other oil companies are not also valid as oil companies? So I was afraid that he would say, go back and get the more multinational companies, but I've already gone. They refused to attend to me. So what we did, I went to Total. I sat in Total they had to come from around 9 a.m. in the morning. I got there 9 a.m. I sat there from morning till 4 o'clock. They didn't attend to me. So what do you want me to do? So I was at that point. I was saying, wow. Because it was just. It's more like when you have a wound and somebody just just drilling, drilling. You know how it is, how you be feeling. I was feeling, I said, I hope he will not ask me to just go back now. So at the point, after he saw that I was already sweating and so when he just hit the book like this, his own draft, he said, you've done a good job here. So then my mind came down, okay, well, he will not ask me to go back. Then we left that. Then we went to the next question. Then we came again to the issue of Trumpification, the issue of Trump, the issue of power relations, Foucault, and some of the aspects of dimension of power, and how Trump, and the way the media, quite a lot of it now becomes a discourse. And that is what the Viva process is. It's supposed to be an enjoyable process. It's supposed to be a type of a discourse between colleagues. And that's why you don't need to be saucy. You just need to, whatever, even if you know everything, just please, just be cool-headed, be calm, and just, allow things be. So after the questions, they drilled me. I thought I was already, I need to stop now. I thought I was already free until after he finished all his drilling. Then the internal examiner, who I said he has already answered his own question, had another question. And the question was valid, very sensible question. Now, if you say the communities don't have power, so what of more militants who use guns to influence companies? That's power, isn't it? So, I thought, that is valid. It's an element type of power, but you see, it's an illegitimate power. Since it's not recognized by the state, it's not within the confines of recognized power to influence. So illegitimate, and that was how we had the question, and it went very fine. Now, one of the things I did, which in doing, I had what I call research incubator series, which I started here, and the first presentation, which I invited Dr. Peter Atoro to give a talk about methodology and things like that, he mentioned something which he had at his Viva, and that stuck with me, that I'm going to do that same thing. And his own external examiner caught it, and it worked for him. So I felt, that is valid. And that is a point that after you submit this, don't stop. That's why I said keep looking at the... So after I submitted in January, I continued. And this is 22 pages. And I've not even finished. Because at this point, I didn't finish corrections to this. So even I've submitted, I continued. And to make it easy for them, I did serial number, page number of the corrections before the changes, after the changes. What was it I changed? So, and I made it chapter by chapter. So I had, before the Viva, yeah. So on the day of the Viva, I had 8 chapters in my thesis. So on the day of the Viva, this was the first thing I served them. This is an addendum too. to this. So when they look at it, okay, that again, all the typos, all the whatever, whatnot, all the types and everything, this would have, 22 pages, and I've not even done chapter 5, which is the methodology. But already 22 pages is very impressive, isn't it? So whatever typos you would have. So after I submitted that, they look at it and say, okay, good. And as I entered, because I had my slides prepared and these also copies produced. So as I entered, is the first thing I give to all of them. Yes?
So what kind of corrections? Is it just anything? Or does it have to be like...
Now, your external examiner is looking from, I got this from other seminars and webinars I often listen to, which is part of the support you need during the PhD program. There is 3 things your external examiner is looking for. 3 things. They call them CSS. The first one is the content. Content. Is there content regarding your field, the work, is it in the leadership? Is it in corporate social responsibility? Is it in information science? Is it in marketing? Is there content regarding contribution to the field? So that's what the person is looking at. The second one is the issue of what you call is it semantics now? Grammar. 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 Are you with all that okay? The third one is the style. Your style of writing. Your style of writing. So those are 3 key things you need to work on. As you're working on the content based on your field, your style of writing, you must make sure your style of writing is up. And I know you're going to be getting comment from your supervisor about, I don't like your style of writing. I don't like your style of writing. You keep getting it until the day of your submission of this. Even after you submit this, you just keep, okay, how do I up my ante when it comes to style of writing? And the third one, which is the issue of your syntax, your English, and your grammar, and all whatnot. So that's, once you submit that, and that, I think, my correction is just four corrections, which the commander said, well, you can do this in 30 minutes. So the first one, remove part of the because before they come into that place, they've decided what will be the solution and what is going to be the outcome. In some, if you watch some YouTube channels, some would tell you straight on, you have passed. We just want to be sure that you did the work and your contribution. Some Vivas, some, not all. So just 4 questions. The title, subtitle, I should remove the subtitle, the append after the blah blah that it distracts that. Then I should add a supplement to the table 5 describing who the participants are. This can be an appendix. Number 3, chapter conclusions should be renamed, summaries and be expanded to cover the main points in each chapter. Number 4, review chapter subsections with a view to reducing the need for so many subsections. I had section 4.1, about 6 levels. So it's often good that you make it 3, 6.1, 6.1.1, 6.1.1.1. Now, I had some as far as 5. So they said, no, that is too steep. I should just remove that. And that was all the...
Did you get that sent to you after?
Yes, this will be sent to you by Martin Simpson, and a letter and a sample, a letter of the requirement and a sample of the binding, letter of the binding, and a letter indicating what the time you had, indicating your, and that's, so this will be sent to you by post by the graduate school, telling you that okay, you've successfully gone through the process. So are you allowed to record? Well, the issue of recording, is because of ethics, you might not be allowed to do recording. you might not be allowed to do recording. But I didn't ask. I didn't even plan to do the recording.
Yeah.
I didn't plan. But I normally, previously, you need to also, if this would be helpful to you, I did that. But otherwise, I don't know what happened to me. I used to record my sponsor normally asked me to make presentations. So in those presentations, I normally record my presentations. But it's good to tell your supervisor that you'll be recording your presentation, because their voice also will be coming into whatever you're recording when they ask you questions. And some of those, when you go back, it will provide a lot of guidance and directions for you on your program. So I think it would be nice if you do recordings and you are able to go back and look at the recordings and query some of the things.
You can ask your supervisor to do mock Vivas, and you can record that.
Yeah, okay, and that's another point I do. Now, on my YouTube channel, part of on preparing for Viva, there's a particular thing right from the beginning of my PhD program. I was so concerned about the assessment of the PhD program. I was so concerned about the issue of rigor, because it's important as a PhD student that you want to be double sure that you have the external examiner want to be double sure that there's rigor in what you have done, that is depth in what is part of the content they are assessing. So I've been bothered about rigor. Would what I'm doing, would it be rigorous enough to value and to say it counts for a PhD program? So I kept looking at, so in using a qualitative study and using the software, all I was interested in trying to find out is to show rigor. So trying to do my data in 3 levels, like a similar of grounded theory, going through the open coding, and the second one and the third, and trying to do that. So it's important that you are thinking of this during the thing I checked. I think it was the first year or second year I came into the program. I went online to check about Viva questions, and I came across nasty. You'll see it, nasty Viva questions, PhD questions, in which they ask you various questions. If you look at those questions and try to be preparing your mind, don't make it to detract you. It's only preparing you because you need to be able to defend your work. So to asking you those questions, and you need to asking your contribution to knowledge and how, where, and also they ask you, okay, what do you think your work is going to from here? Now that you have finished, what is the next thing? Because you're now an academic, so you also be able to indicate what. So it's good that you have a mock Viva. It's good also if you can get some of your friends together, apart from your supervisor, and make a presentation and let them critique something. For me as a person, my supervisor was not so bothered about my presentation skill, but more about my writing skill. So he said, so after a while, I didn't do presentations again because I'll be able to explain what I'm done. Now is now to put it into writing and do it.
How many interviews did you have to conduct, and how many is enough for a PhD?
Well, it's really that when you talk of how many interviews are, if you are using a qualitative study, it depends. It's relative. It depends on your external examiner, and it depends on how you are dealing with it. There are 6 interviews that have gotten PhDs, and some who are still coming from the positivist perspective. Even when you do 30, they say it's not enough. Even when you do 15, they say it's not enough. When you do 25, it's not enough, because the person is embedded in the positivist culture of the more, which often doesn't follow, is more of. Huh? Well, if you can do more, I went out thinking, well, that's part of who I am. I went out thinking I can survey all the oil companies in Nigeria, which were about 7-something. But yes, even though it was qualitative, and I've gone both. I started with qualitative, Then I was concerned about, I want to publish. Then my supervisor said, you need data. So I felt, what can give me chance to publish? So I veered into quantitative. Then went up the line, then developed the questionnaire, went through the issue of, we used to have Alex Wilson now, Alex Wilson from the computer science. Went having meeting with him, going through all the questionnaires, looking at variability, looking at reliability between the questions. I went all that. After finishing that, then one day I just said, I just need to swallow my pride and just forget about all this quantitative, because it's not hard to the body of knowledge. My argument is the lived experiences. If I'm talking about lived experiences, quantitative will not actually help me. So I just woke up home and I just told them, I've forgotten about quantitative. I'm going back to qualitative. So that's what I think I did.
Sorry, just one last question. In my own case, I'm looking at business school academics. And
Yeah.
At the end of the day, my external mind would definitely be from within business school. I'm doing something related to what I'm doing. So having to interview, because I don't know, if you interview your potential external examiner during your study, that person automatically would not
be, because there's conflict of interest already. You already had a relationship with the person.
So should you, it's good to, in my own case, to maybe have two people in mind who possibly maybe would accept to be the external examiner and then not interview them.
Well, that's the point. Just ensure that you don't have any close relationship with the person and they don't have anything close to know your work.
But you meet them at conference.
Well, no, you can meet at conference, you can talk, as far as they've not actually had time to read your work or, have any input, as it were, or advice, as it were, to you. You want to be sure that there's that integrity and ethics in relationship.
But if they heard you present during the conference,
but at that point, you are not sure if they're going to be your external. You are not sure. So you're not sure if they're going to be your external examiner. So you just need to be careful who your external examiner. Yeah. So I think I've spent too much time. So I hope I've answered your questions. If I haven't, just send me an email, and you'll find this YouTube channel helpful for you. There are about 30-something videos there. I'm still uploading quite a lot. And if any of you also, I'm still recording any PhD experiences of the social sciences. So if any of you want to feature, I had with Mitchell about research diary and some other things. So if you are interested for me to have a time with you, volunteering during the PhD process is important. You volunteer because you need to have part of your career goals. You need to have experiences. I was part of the RG Radio for 1 year, which I managed the radio station. So quite a lot of things and resources, blogs. So thank you for having me. I think